So there was a video on the internet on changing the tips on these Duramax motors. There was one for the LB7, I believe. Old fella did it. This is an LLY, and it is very similar to that LB7 as far as parts inside here. So pull this little cone off here. It's fairly easy to change these out, but you got to be very careful. As soon as this comes off here, I'll show you why. It's gonna fall. Alright, once you get that sleeve off, that tip is just barely sitting on there. And them two pins on the side there is what holds it in. And those pins are offset from center. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Alright, let's get that off there. And then this is where you gotta be very careful. Alright, so you can see them pins on the side. They're offset center. There's 4 holes. You got your 2 pins, and then you got an intake and the return. And on the tip itself only has 3. This one up here isn't a hole. It's just there's nothing there. So you can't put these on wrong, which is what I thought I did at first. Then I realized there's only one way these go on, so you cannot mess it up. Alright, again, like I said, you want to be very careful pulling them apart. There is a tiny washer sitting down in the middle in there, and it's a little bit magnetized, just like the other video did, the guy did. They are magnetized just a little bit. Alright, let's get them pins out. I'll just go ahead and pull that. Alright, so that's part of it. And alright, so that little washer must be inside. Everything came out at once. There it is. That little bitty washer. You do not want to lose that. That is crucial. The guy said in the other video that he believes if you forget that, you will have a runaway motor, which you all know we don't want that. Another little washer, a spring, and then you got this little sleeve. There's one side. Come on. See if I can get it to zoom here. Yeah, you want to zoom in. There we go. Alright, so there's a little bit of a recess right there, and it's only on one side. The other side's just straight down through, and that will make a difference how that goes back on, so you want to be paying attention there. Alright, and then the only other thing you got here is inside here. Trying to do this one-handed. There it goes. Alright, so this will be on the inside of your nozzle. That is the tip for the inside of the nozzle. I believe that works by getting pressed down, allowing fuel through, and that spring, when it's done, shuts off, and this pulls back up, shuts the fuel off. Not 100% sure on that. That is part of it. Get this moved up here. Try to keep all them parts together. That way you don't lose nothing. So that's it for replacing the nozzles on these LLY injectors. I'm actually not replacing them. All I'm doing, I'm going to try to do anyway. So I'm cleaning these up best I can. Got a bunch of crud built up on them. And I'm just taking a brush to them, getting them cleaned up, especially up here near the nozzle where the fuel actually comes out. Getting that cleaned up real good. Make sure all these little parts are nice and clean. And then making sure this is all good. And them pins do come out. I just can't get them with one hand. There we go. There's one. The only reason you'd want to take those out is if you were moving this around. You wouldn't want to get it. Wouldn't want that to fall out while you're moving around and lose it. That's what I've been doing. I've just been setting all them little bitty parts up there and then getting all this cleaned up. And then once you're ready to reassemble, after everything's clean, you gotta put this back in here, slides in, and then once it gets to that far, you gotta kind of push it in the rest of the way. Just like that. And then next, man, I gotta get one of them tripod deals. The next thing you want to do, get your little bitty washer, not the tiny one, but this washer goes underneath that spring, and it just goes over or around that center pin there. Get that on. You just drop it in there, and then that spring, man, it doesn't look like, I did look at these springs to see if there was a certain way. I don't believe there is. Both sides are pretty flat. So once you got that washer in, drop that spring in over top of that. And then what I was doing, this is another thing you want to be really careful about when you're putting them pins back in. You want to make sure that you're putting them in the stud holes. You do not want to drop them down into the low pressure return port or the intake port. If they get jammed in there, you're going to have a real mess on your hands. Let's be real careful with that. If you're looking down in there, you can see that two of them are shallow. You just want to make sure them pins get back into them shallow ones. Like I said, if you accidentally get one down in the return port or the intake, you're going to have a mess. So, get those back in, push them down. And then the next thing, you set this down slowly. Make sure you don't lose that anything in there, and then forget it. Alright, so when you're reassembling this nozzle, what you want to do is, remember that recessed on this little slide here. I'm going to make sure make sure your recessed end is going over that center needle in here. That does make a difference. You want to make sure that is how that goes in. If you're taking these apart, you'll understand what I mean. And actually, before you do that, this little bitty washer here. This is how I've been doing it. I'm not 100% sure if, you put that cusp on there first and then put these on. So you get that little bitty washer and you slide it to the center. When you get those out, if them needles have been in there for a while, you can tell where that washer goes. And it goes dead center. I can't get it with one hand, but alright, that's pretty close. So you want that dead center. And then you take this little sleeve, recess down over top of that needle with that little tiny washer, or whatever you want to call it, over top, just like that. And then what you do is you take this. Remember, there's only 3 ports on that, and 2 of them are for the studs up here. And like I said, you can't mess that up because they are offset for that reason, so that you don't get that mixed up. Let me see if I can get this here. One hand, probably not. Show you guys. Alright. Alright. So I know I'm off because the pins won't line up. So I know I have to turn this 180 degrees for the pins to line up. And I'm just going to set this on here, even though I know my little washer is out. But once you get that together and it's sitting on there, you should be able to press this down and feel that spring compress. If it don't, then you're going to have a problem. Alright. Get that all back apart anyway. But I just wanted to share this because I know there's nothing on there about these LLY injectors. Like I said, I'm on a tight budget. I'm gonna attempt to just get these cleaned up and get them bench tested. If they come back alright, I'm just gonna throw them right back in because everybody knows how expensive they are. Even to rebuild them, it's expensive. So, hope this video helps somebody along. I know the old man that did the LB7 helped me, so. Alright, fellas, good luck.